speakers have a variety of knowledge they can rely on during communication. They need linguistic knowledge, which has to do with the various characteristics of language like grammar and pronunciation. But they also have extra-linguistic knowledge such as cultural understanding, context knowledge, and familiarity with other communicators. This video will look at the importance of context knowledge and familiarity with other communicators, as well as Grice's cooperative principle. Context and familiarity. A big difference between writing and speaking is that usually, speaking is done in a synchronous situation, which means that the interlocutor is part of the same context. This allows speaking to be less explicit than writing. Speaking uses a lot of personal pronouns like I and you. It also uses a lot of this and that, those type of language because you're in a familiar setting. In speaking, it is easy to say, "This wine tastes great." Because of the context, the listener will understand which wine is being referred to. Speaking also allows more ellipsis, meaning that some words, phrases, and clauses can be understood from context and do not need to be repeated. In fact, in speaking, redundant ideas should not be repeated. The focus is on new information. Writing tends to keep more detail and redundancy than speaking does. Furthermore, the context and familiarity of the communicators will affect the word choice and degree of detail given. This begins to get into linguistic knowledge. Okay? But let's talk about the cooperative principle. Paul Grice presented some maxims in 1975 involving conversation and the social relationship of it that has become known as the cooperative principle. Essentially, he believes that speakers and listeners cooperate together in order for both to feel successful. Let's look at his maxims, but as we look at them, remember that these have been proven to be based in culture, so that some cultures would not follow these maxims. Also, these apply to conversation. Storytellers, comedians, and con artists are just a few examples of speakers who either play with these maxims or ignore them. The maxim of quality is that speakers say what is true, and they do not say what they don't have evidence for. One way around this is when speakers use hedges or other verbal clues to indicate that they think something is accurate, but they don't have the evidence for it. Words such as I think or maybe are ways the talker indicates that proof of the truth is outside of their personal knowledge. The maxim of quantity means that you only say as much as you need to and not more than you need to. This specifically pertains to information. If someone asks where the nearest McDonald's is, for example, then the person responding should say, down the street 1 block and then turn left. He should not say, well, there's one down the street to the left, but there's another one 4 blocks south of here, or you could go to the one down in Wellington. Too much information has been given. The maxim of relation says that whatever you respond with must be relevant to the conversation. This often results in miscommunications. For example, if I say, I hear the weather's going to be warm, but my interlocutor responds with, who's going to be harmed? I'm lost in the conversation for a while because I don't see the relationship between the two utterances. When I finally recognize that the interlocutor misheard what I said, then I can make a correction and continue on with my part of the conversation. Okay? The maxim of manner is very similar to the maxim of quantity, okay? Except that instead of focusing on information, it focuses on the number of words used to communicate that information. The maxim of manner requires brevity and conciseness from the language we choose. Some scholars have suggested combining this maxim with the quantity one. Essentially, the cooperative principle believes speakers and listeners cooperate to create understanding and meaning. We also looked at the idea that context and familiarity determines whether word choices are formal or informal and how detailed you need to be or not to be. The next video in this series will look at genre knowledge and discourse markers.